to another interesting episode of Labor Lens, where we bring to you update information in the world of work and pay. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's episode of the program, we have interesting news stories for you and more. The conversation continues in a moment. Organized labor, which consists of the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, and the United Labour Congress, say there won't be industrial harmony if the presidency fails to submit the report of the new national minimum wage by the last day of the year. This was after an emergency meeting in Lagos. The Labour leaders condemned the planned setup of a high-powered technical committee to review the figures submitted. They say it's alien to the tripartite process and ILO conventions on the national minimum wage setting mechanism.
The high-powered committee is alien to any form of our tripartite processes for collective bargaining. And therefore, the organized labor will not be part of that high-powered technical committee. So, it's just like putting the cart before the horse. In fact, we've concluded all processes. If you are talking of state governments, they were part of the tripartite committee.
As we said, it's delayed tactics and diversionary. And I think we have informed enough the labor movement to fall into such a trap.
Outside the premises of the Lagos Judicial Division of the Court of Appeal, at least the 100 pensioners made efforts to see through this contentious matter, which has been within the court system for at least 27 years. They began their action in the wrong court and practically exhausted their rights to the Supreme Court, which ruled that they had a case, but with a wrong approach. The pensioners argued that they were federal civil servants who were forcefully retired but had a private pension scheme for which the court ruled that this was inconsistent, null and void. After challenging the decision at the High Court and the Supreme Court, they were referred to the National Industrial Court in Abuja, which ruled in 2012 in favor of NSPMC. But the retirees were not satisfied and challenged the matter at the National Industrial Court in Lagos. At the court in Lagos, the judge ruled that the matter is statute barred and abuse of court process, since another court of competent jurisdiction has given judgment on the matter. This aspect of the judgment of 2012 has taken the aggrieved pensioners to different courts to prosecute the matter. Their grounds is forceful retirement from the employer of the NSPMC and the need to reconsider their manner of disengagement from service. Justice Toby Idowu, who delivered the judgment, upheld the decision of the National Industrial Court of 2012 to the effect that the case amounted to an abuse of court process and was not statute barred. The court also held that it lacked the jurisdiction to hear it, and that the case lacked merit because the pensioners were not in the employ of the federal government, as the NSPMC is now privately owned.
Argument before the court was that the parties are not the same and that the claims are not the same. But, well, you cannot question the court. When the court has given a decision, the court has given a decision. The alternative you have is to go on appeal. But in this situation, there is no opportunity to go on appeal.
Our argument is simple. This is a private company without subvention from government. If you are paid in line with the Pension Act, that company will go under. They know it. The management knows it. So what did we do? We had a meeting that, look, let us have something. You can always look at this. And we had an agreement. But their leadership said, no, it must be cut. This meeting we held in 2014. By now, whatever we agreed could be reviewed.
The case between the Nigerian Printing and Minting ex-workers and the company has been on for more than 27 years. At the Court of Appeal here in Lagos, judgment has been pronounced in favor of NSPMC. Now, the retirees are saying that 1,000 naira as monthly pension is not sufficient for them. As can be imagined, they are not just shattered but confronted with the reality of a lifetime's work not rewarded.
My wife has died. My wife has died. But God, in His finest mercies, told us He has provided. So, if everybody have any problem like this, you should have that belief that God has provided.
The major issue that they need to address was not addressed. Our problem is what you are paying. Do you understand? You are not paying us well, because at least no one will say somebody earning 1,000 naira is living, if not by assistance of other people in his own climb.
They are asking the federal government to intervene. The Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria held its 40th anniversary, which coincided with the 45th session of the National Executive Council meeting. With several challenges faced by the labor sector, the union chose an appropriate lecture theme, Industrial Relations in Nigeria, Today's Challenges and Prospects.
If you go to Kaduna, you see Nigerians who are suffering. If you go to Enugu, you see Nigerians who are suffering. If you go to Bayelsa or any place, you see Nigerians who are suffering, who are living in abject poverty. And in these places too, you see Nigerians who are living in complete opulence. The class divide is there. For me as a person, I've always looked at issues from the class perspective, not where you come from, not your religion.
Representative of Nigeria's Minister of Health also spoke on the theme.
Considering the frequent industrial disharmony that exists in the health sector, understanding the fact that Nigerians have it rough during any industrial unrest in the health sector, the death toll during such crisis rises astronomically, and poor Nigerians are exploited by the private hospital operators and quacks. Hence, dialogue should be your watchword in every situation to enable Nigerians enjoy the dividends of democracy, especially in the health sector.
The president of Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, who is also the president of the International Trade Union Center, spoke on the challenges facing the health sector and the way forward.
In terms of healthcare delivery, the quality, I can say, or the professionals, I can say that the professionals are among the best we have in the world. Our problem is how to manage the system, because we have best practices all around the world on how to manage our healthcare system. We have experts on healthcare system, and I think one of the very important rudiments is about having harmony in the system, because we have different professionals who in their own right are supposed to provide quality healthcare services. So the way you manage the system is very, very important. In our own case, the best way also to measure the performance of our health system is about the indices. And because those indices are also indices for development. The issue of life expectancy, the issue of the disease burden and how we're able to take care of them, the issue of maternal and child mortality. All of these are indices that are also used globally to measure development. In terms of our indices, certainly we are not doing well.
Those managing the health industry now, will you say they are the most knowledgeable in the management and administration of the health care delivery in Nigeria? When has a medical doctor become a health administrator? And you know that the global practice that we used to talk is that you go to all these advanced countries, hospitals are managed by health administrators. So a situation where the minister is a doctor, the minister of state is a doctor, every director in the ministry is a doctor, and all other health professionals in the group are relegated to the background, and only if a group is favored, you know that there is crisis and social injustice exists, and therefore you can no longer work as a team. That is the reason why healthcare delivery system is in shambles in Nigeria.
Awards were given to workers and government officials at different levels for promoting efficiency in the health sector and the union. Health, they say, is wealth, and if workers' welfare is properly taken care of, it could improve the healthcare sector in Nigeria. On the Profile Interview segment this week, I will be speaking with the president of the Medical and Health Workers Union. He will be sharing with us what happened during the 40th anniversary of the union. Join me. It's good to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure meeting you again.
Congratulations on your 40th anniversary. That's the union's 40th anniversary. I would like to ask you, 40 years down the line, how would you rate the healthcare sector in Nigeria?
Thank you. It's good you separated Medical and Health Workers Union from the healthcare sector. I would say we are diving down. We've not made any significant progress, especially from 1985 to date. Our indices have been nosediving, so it's not good news for us.
So what are your expectations in terms of strengthening the health sector, especially when it comes to the welfare of workers?
Ordinarily, welfare generally of all workers in Nigeria is not something to write home. All workers, all sectors are underpaid, from the security to health to education to even the core civil service. Nobody's salary is a living wage. Nobody's salary is a take home. So we will say generally it's not so good. But in the healthcare welfare issues, the major problem about welfare in the health system is not because the government is not willing to do something, but it is something inherent in the ministry. The Ministry of Health the structure is faulty, where a particular profession alone is deemed to be capable of handling everything, including the administration, where they are not experts. Prior to 1985, I repeat this 1,000 times if I need to. Prior to 1985, hospitals were administered by hospital administrators, hospital secretaries, hospital governors, and so on. These are administrators. And of course, that is what is obtained in the global best practice that they talk every time they go on air. But when it comes to doing it in that aspect, then global best practice becomes something that does not exist. So the first thing to do is getting the administrative structure right. Who mans the administrative sector? Get it right. Then take out corruption. Once you do these two, and then increase funding when you have done these two. And once you've taken these three aspects right, I tell you, health will get to the poorest of the poor in Nigeria.
So you've spoken about removing corruption, ensuring that professionals are allowed to run the hospitals across board. My concern again is the issue of staffing in the healthcare sector. many medical or health workers, if I may say, have complained that they are overstretched, and the ratio towards healthcare professional and patients have actually increased in recent times. The number of patients probably a nurse or a medical attendant have to actually attend to is high right now. So what's your union doing about this in terms of sensitizing the relevant authorities to ensure that the healthcare workers are not overstretched and also the patients get value in terms of treatment?
Thank you again. That is one area that we have never slept over. If you look at every time we are discussing with government, every time we are expressing our pains, that is part of our pains. We have always called for increasing the manpower level. And you can see that for years, so many years, the manpower level has not been commensurately increased. The population is growing at jet speed. And the employment of staff, manpower increase to meet up that growing population is at snail speed. So you can't get the two meeting at any point. It's difficult for them to meet. And that's why we've been saying, when issues of, say, oh, the funding and that, look, funding is critical. Funding is not enough. But first, let there be a corruption-free system, which is the pillar of our struggles ever since.
So would you say that this is one of the reasons why we are experiencing brain drain in the sector?
Certainly, that contributes a lot.
So what do you think can be done to encourage health workers to remain within the confines of the country to practice their profession?
The moment, workers are cared for properly, the moment workers have hope of getting to the pinnacle of their choosing profession, you give them that conducive mindset to say, oh, let me get job satisfaction here. Even here, I can get some job satisfaction. If I go out, I'll still be looking for job satisfaction. And so the option of stepping out becomes a remote issue. But in as much as a worker, a professional or a health worker sees you mistreating him, you give all the rights to one particular group, because for now, they are at the end of the affair. We've always been saying that, look, you have two ministers in a system. If you have given the Minister of Health to the less than 5% in the health sector, why don't you now give the Minister of State to the 95%? So that everybody will be evenly, the interest of everybody, the cries of everybody, the pains of everybody will be brought to the table. And then it will be discussed and treated. But a situation where whenever one group asks for improvement in welfare, legitimate welfare increase, oh, the minister representing, because that is not where he belongs, that minister will not take the problems of these people to Mr. President. But when it is the issue of his own professional calling, then he takes the file in his handpit to ensure that Mr. President sees it, whether legitimate or not legitimate.
Which leads me to my next question. You're the president of Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, and you also double up as the president of JOESU, national chairman of JOESU. It's more than 6 months that JOESU suspended its industrial action. Would you say there are any updates in terms of your negotiation which is going on between you and the government?
Well, just a few days back, we signed an agreement with the ADRO for onward transmission to the court for final ruling or judgment as maybe the position of parties. Well, I would say to that extent, would say the ADRO has come to an end, as far as we are concerned.
I would not want to go beyond here because the court still has some little time. We hope the court will, come out with a ruling before this year runs out. If it is not, I'm afraid if my members will be so happy as the year opens next year. And I'm afraid what my members will do if it is not done in the appropriate way that they expect things to be. Thanks to God, next year is election year.
The issue of minimum wage is one issue that many Nigerian workers are actually interested in, and it cut across all strata of profession. What should take about the process of achieving the new national minimum wage? What do you think can be done as a matter of urgency, or what's your message to the stakeholders involved in actualizing the 30,000 naira new minimum wage?
I think my advice would be to the federal government and the commander-in-chief that it should, as a matter of urgency, get that thing signed, approved, and where possible, get it implemented. Put it into the budget, and then get it implemented by January. That's my take on it. There's no amount of, dilly-dallying in the sense that, oh, governors say they can't pay. And look, what do we mean by governors can't pay? Is there any governor that gives his own kindergarten child in the nursery 30,000 naira as school fees? I'm asking. Why would governors say they don't have the capacity to pay? This is a nation that's had over 12 years of budget surplus. This is a nation where, in the same so-called rotten economy as they claim, our legislators earn equally or more than their counterparts in the United States of America. And what we are asking for, 30,000, is less than 5% of an American's civil servant's minimum wage. So it's provocative. It's provocative. When governors say, look, can you get any governor whose budget from the last time the minimum wage was increased has remained stagnant? They've been making increased budget proposals. Their realization, their earnings from the proposals have always increased too. But remember, the workforce had not increased. The minimum wage had not increased. Had not increased. So in as much as these have not increased, there is no way anybody can claim that they have no capacity to pay. You can only claim you don't have a capacity to pay where the minimum wage has been rising, proportionately or commensurately with the inflationary trend. We are talking about a minimum wage that has lost everything. Even the 30,000 is not up to where we were 2011. It's not up to where we were even in 2015. So the idea of saying, oh, we don't have money, have any governor also reduced, especially those governors that are crying they can't pay? For this, we applaud those governors that are ready to implement. For instance, like my governor. Governor Seraki Dixon really said he's ready to pay even more. The governor of Edo State is already paying 25,000. So to increase 5,000, I don't think will be a difficult thing for him, and he has also promised his workers he will do it. And so many other governors. So
looking at industrial relations in Nigeria, trying to wrap up this conversation, I realized that during the lecture of to mark the 40th anniversary of the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, that you centered, or your focus was on industrial relations in the country. So generally, how would you say the lecturer performed in terms of disseminating information on what is obtainable when it comes to industrial relations?
Very excellently well. You can see, if you were there, the rapt attention of our members. And he made all the lecturers made practical examples, very practical examples, you know. Rather than accepting agreements, rather than accepting realities of the issues on the table, presently the Minister of Labour rather had employed intimidation, and the Minister of Health is also employing intimidation, though selectively, because if it is the golden boys, there is no intimidation. Even the Minister of Labour, if it is the golden, some of the selected ones, there is no work, no pay. Recently, you can see, ASU was on strike. And the same government has withdrawn the circular ordering a no work, no pay. The truth about the matter is, once you have entered into an agreement and you have violated this agreement, and I have given you the requisite number of days required by law, I've given you the notice, and you refuse to address the issues, I don't think you have the moral and legitimate right to punish anyone. The resurgence of or resurrection of no work, no pay is only an act to intimidate the workers, cow the workers into submission.
So have your members been paid the amount of money or for the months that they were not at work during the strike?
They've not been paid, and I assure you, we will ask for it and we will be paid, because the strike was instigated by the government, and the government cannot beat a child and say the child should not cry. When you have entered into an agreement and you violate the same agreement, and I have given you the requisite number of days that I have to give you notice, and then you fail to meet what you ought to do, and you say, after macheting me, that I should not cry, that's the cruel father. And I'm sure this government will not want to register itself as a cruel father.
It was an interesting conversation I had with you. And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.